Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Edge Grant webinar. We're so excited to be running our 5th round of Edge Grants. It has flown by in the blink of an eye, and we've seen some really cool projects come forth. So we're really looking forward to getting your applications from this round and seeing some of the other cool things that are happening right here in Delaware. So today we want to focus on how to strengthen your application for the Edge Grant and put your best foot forward. Just wanted to start with a couple pictures here of folks from previous rounds. It's always a really fun time. We celebrate this pretty big. This is a great accomplishment. These grants are really competitive. The last round we had over 100 applications. So, to get to that point is really exciting. So we like to recognize it for the achievement that it is. And the governor always comes and helps to recognize and celebrate that as well. So we would love to see your picture here in round 5 for the next time that we do these webinars. So what are Edge Grants? Edge stands for Encouraging Development, Growth, and Expansion, and the program was created as a way to level the playing field for our small businesses. It's set up in 2 categories here, STEM and entrepreneur. STEM are obviously your science and technology companies. Those are typically more heavily based into research areas. So make sure that when you're picking your category, you're able to self-select. We will not choose which category your application competes in, but make sure you're being cognizant of that when you select the category, because I think we've seen people fall into the trap of thinking, I'm going to apply in STEM because it's more money. As you can see here in the next bullet point, STEM awards are $100,000 each and entrepreneur awards are $50,000 each. Make sure if you choose to compete in the STEM category that your business is a type that will be competitive against some of the other things that happen in that category. If you have any questions about that specifically, or really anything else about these applications, we're going to share some contact information at the end of the presentation, and it'll tell you how to get in touch with your business manager, and you can kind of run it by them if you're still confused and not sure where to go. Like I said, this is a really competitive process. Last round, we got over 100 applications, and we narrowed that down continuously throughout the process. So last round, we actually did 10 awards in the entrepreneur category for $25,000. So you'll see there that we had 15 winners last round, whereas in this round, we're only going to have 10. We're going to have 5 STEM and 5 entrepreneur. But from that, we narrowed it down last time to 23 finalists. So in this round, you're probably going to see probably right around 16 finalists to narrow it down to 10 awards. These awards have a 3-to-1 funding match. So for every $3 that the state is putting in, the applicant would have to match it with 1. So for a full award of $50,000, the applicant would have to also contribute $16,667 in order to fully round out the project. Who is eligible? First and foremost, businesses have to be in business for 5 years or less. And the reason that that is in place is because this program was intended to target small businesses who aren't eligible for traditional financing. And really, because of just the inherent risky nature of small businesses, if your business is 5 years older or less, you're probably going to have some difficulty getting traditional financing from a bank just because you don't have that history established just yet. The other criteria here, less than 10 full-time employees. 2 part-time employees equal to 1 full-time. And then also you can see the catch here. If they work less than 10 hours a week, or if you have a really seasonal business, they work less than 4 months, they do not count as part of that calculation. Your business needs to be majority located here in Delaware. If you are applying and you are not located in Delaware, you need to understand that your Edge Grant will not be finalized until you actually physically move here to Delaware, majority locate. So we do not exclude those applications, but be aware that that has to be in place before we would move any further if you are selected from that. Net assets have to be less than $500,000. And again, that goes back to, we're really trying to reach a population that can't access other financing. So if your business has $500,000 in net assets, it's probably fair to say that probably not exactly who we're looking for in this specific program. The final point here is you cannot have previously received a strategic fund grant. This is a question that we get a lot throughout the process because people are concerned that they've received it and did not know it. And here's a really good test for that. I promise you, if you have ever received a strategic fund grant, you will remember the process and there will not be a question in your mind, because receiving that kind of grant is a very intensive process and requires a public meeting appearance. So you would have appeared in front of the Council on Development Finance in order to have secured such a grant. So don't get those confused. So I know we have a lot of folks we were able to help through the DE relief grants through our office, which we were really excited and proud to have launched during the pandemic for relief. That does not count. So if you got a DRG grant from us, that is not what we are talking about in this last bullet. The application itself, you can find at our website, delbiz.com, and it's pretty straightforward. It's only a couple pages long. It's going to ask you for some basic demographic data like your name, business name, ownership, tax ID number, just some really straightforward things like that. We have intentionally left this open-ended because what we're ultimately looking for from you is a proposal about what your plan is for the EDGE grant program. There's a couple formatting guidelines that we have in place here. Times New Roman font, size 12, double spaced is what we're looking for. Maximum of 20 pages. This might seem a little bit restrictive, but after the first few rounds, we learned pretty quickly that people are really excited about their business, and you can tell that passion comes through sometimes in the length. So it became very difficult to get all of that reviewed in a timely manner. So we narrowed it down to 20 pages because it seemed like after 20 pages, there was not a lot of thoughtful data necessarily coming out. I think people were just concerned they were missing things. So 20 pages seems to have been the sweet spot. That has to include all of your exhibits and financial statements. So make sure that you have your 20-page limit under control, because we are going to strictly enforce that. If your financial statements start on page 21, they will not be read. They will not be printed. They will not be read, and your application will be tossed because you'll be missing required items. So please do not put yourself in that situation. Please edit carefully and keep it under the 20-page maximum. Once you have that file together, you can go ahead and submit that to edgegrants@delaware.gov, and that should all come over in a PDF electronic format in one file, one PDF file. In the application file on our website, if you scroll to the last several pages, you're going to find some rubrics. This one is labeled STEM rubric. There is a separate rubric for STEM and a separate rubric for entrepreneurs, so make sure you're targeting the correct one depending on which category you're applying in. This is really the best and most transparent way that we can tell you that we're going to evaluate your application, because that's another concern that we hear a lot is, well, how do you do that? When your team reads my application, how do you decide who gets to be a finalist? And the answer is right here. We're giving you that answer right up front. We're going to evaluate it on this precise rubric as we go through. So it becomes even more important that you read what's happening there and make sure that you're hitting all of those points in your presentation. So as far as preparing that presentation from kind of the high level, here's the formula we like to use to help you understand what exactly it is we're looking for. There's a list in the app at the end of the application. There's a list of topics that have to be covered in the presentation. We've seen a lot of people take that and use them as section headings, and that's worked out well for them. So also a great way to approach it. But to keep it organized, think about where your business is at. We want you to tell us about who your target customer is, who is your competition, what are you capable of doing today? And that should be a really honest reflection of where you're at today. And then tell us what you need. Tell us what the grant would fund. The more specific you can be about that, the better. And then use that and tell us, where will your business go if you get exactly what you're asking for? So if your proposal is for a $50,000 grant, tell us what's going to happen if you win that grant. What's going to happen to your business? What's going to happen to your bottom line? Are you going to be able to compete differently? Does your competitive landscape change? Your capabilities, how do they change? What's the return on investment to you? What's the return on investment to the state? And what's your overall impact on the community? So frame it up that way. Where are you at? What do you need? And where can you go with it? Couple areas to focus on within that sphere. You make sure that you're using data to make your assertions, because if you say your market size is 1 million people, make sure that you have outside data to corroborate that. State of Delaware does not have 1 million people who live here. So if you are operating a a local Main Street type service business, a bakery or something similar, you probably don't have a market size of 1 million people just because there aren't that many people that live here. So make sure that you're using data to back that up. And that's just one example. But target it down the best that you can. I like to use this example as well to help illustrate that. Maybe you're a florist in Laurel. Take a look at those websites. We have some resources available to help you if you're not sure where to get started. Think about how many people live in Laurel. Presumably your floral deliveries wouldn't be limited just to Laurel. There's a surrounding area there, so expand it out from there. Figure out where you operate and then back into your numbers from there. Same thing for competition. Think about who your customers are and where you fall in that landscape. And something else to consider is that your product, while unique, probably has some kind of acceptable substitute. So to use the florist example, obviously, people like flowers and continue to purchase, but if the cost of flowers were to rise significantly or the customer couldn't access a floral shop at the space that they wanted, they could purchase something else, maybe like chocolates or a fruit basket or something like that. So that person is your competition. So when you're evaluating your competition, maybe think outside of the box a little bit and make sure that you're looking through the full picture. And the final point I'll leave you with here are challenges. Be honest and transparent about what your challenges are as a business. You definitely have them, and that's okay. When we read proposals that say, I don't have any business challenges, we can assume only one of two things. Either one, you're not really a good fit for the program, or two, you're completely unaware of the challenges that exist in your business, and this might not be the best investment as the state for us to be making. So be honest. It is not a way for us to ding you in any way about, where your business is at. Look at everything objectively. Another area where we see a lot of problems historically is in the financial statements. First and foremost, make sure you include an income statement and a balance sheet. For this round, we would be looking for financial statements that were dated as of December 31st of 2022. That is the most recently ended period. Most of our folks file on a calendar year basis. So those year-end financial statements should be reasonably easy to obtain. The best applications that we see take the data from those financial statements and they include them in their proposal and use it as data points to show, here's where we are. Maybe your revenue is $10,000 now, and maybe if you can implement this project, it jumps to $100,000. But incorporating that data in really quantifies what the impact is going to be on your business and makes your proposal much stronger. We do not use the financials to score your application. So just like the challenges don't impact your score negatively, your financials don't impact your score negatively. We're not looking to see that you have X balance of cash in order to be eligible or anything like that. We're using it to understand where your business is at. The other common question that we get is, what is the difference between a balance sheet and an income statement? And what if you're not selling anything yet? Everybody is required to submit is required to submit financials. If you have taken any steps at all to form your business, if you've paid for a business license, if you have gone through the corporate formation process, if you have invested any money at all into this business, you should have financial statements. We have seen only a very small handful of businesses that have applied for this that legitimately did not need a financial statement. So make sure that you have that piece together. And if you have questions, again, make sure you're reaching out to be connected with resources that can help you with that. At a really high level, a balance sheet is a snapshot of what your business owns. So it's going to list out your assets, compare it to your liabilities and equity. Your assets are what you own. So common examples of that are cash, accounts receivable, inventory, fixed assets, equipment, and then how you paid for them. So accounts payable, bank loans, line of credit, and then the equity, which is what you have put into your business. The question we get a lot of, well, why do you need a balance sheet, is this. Let's go back to the very beginning. The qualification for the program of net assets less than $500,000, that's where you'll find that information is right on the balance sheet. So if you don't give us your balance sheet, we're unable to determine if you're eligible for the program, and we can't make assumptions. We have to go on the data that's given to us. So you would be disqualified if you did not provide a balance sheet. Again, please do not let that be the reason that we can't look at your application, because I know a lot of time and effort goes into preparing these proposals, and we would really hate for you to put all of this energy into it and then we don't even read it. So make sure if you have any questions around that, you are asking for sure. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Pfeiffer. Mike is from 1440 Film Company in Wilmington, and they were the winner of a round 3 EDGE grant. And I love this project, so I'm excited for Mike to tell you more about it. This is actually one that I referenced in a webinar that I did last week. This was the offhand example because I think it's just such a strong example. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Like she said, my name is Mike Pfeiffer. I'm the founder of 1440 Film Co. We're a video production company located in beautiful Wilmington, Delaware. There's Market Street getting all kind of work done on it right now. First and foremost, thanks for the Division of Small Business for even having programs like this. I think it's pretty unique to Delaware, and it's certainly been a game changer for us, and I know a lot of other small businesses as well. So yeah, we ended up getting a 2020 Ram Pro Master for our EDGE grant. And it took us a number of years to actually go through this process. Like, I think this was our 3rd time applying before we actually ended up getting the grant. So I know it can be really painful, and, you know, it stinks when you get the bad news that you're not moving forward, but keep at it, because I think this is really a worthwhile program. For us, this vehicle was actually a huge need for us, because a lot of times we would actually rent this same exact kind of vehicle from a rental house in Philly. And, you know, normally we pay $350 just for the truck, and then they would load it up with stuff and we'd have to pay someone to drive it. So we had a decent amount of rental costs that came to us on almost every shoot. So for us, this was kind of like a no-brainer that this would be, you know, huge for us. And on the shoots that we didn't have the money for a rental, I would literally strap cameras into baby seats, and there would be stands and like all this junk. There's like a lot of stuff with filmmaking in general that would just be crammed into my car. So for safety, it was important for us, and also for just reducing our cost. Because I looked at the balance sheet and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm almost renting a full-time employee with how much I'm renting this van. So the folks at the Division of Small Businesses wanted me to, I guess, have a little tips. So we can go to the next slide and talk through some of the things that helped me out, right? The rubric is huge. I mean, you really live and die by that. I would say the best part you can do is just make it easy to read, like highlight each of those sections so they don't have to go digging around and look for the section that has the business need, or, you know, are they checking this box on the rubric? And go right to that far right column and make sure you're able to dive deep into each of those bullet points, and really take your time and look at those, because that really is a big determining factor for you. Be specific about the use that you have. Like my example was kind of easy because I did have those. It's a hard line item for me that's, you know, going out of each project. So that was something that I was able to kind of quantify and say, hey, look, we're renting this every time. This is how much it's costing me. This is how much I would save. This is what it would do for my business. And for me, it really is about, I could literally add another employee with how much I was renting that out. The market data, it can be difficult in this 3rd bullet point here, especially for us. I mean, we were pretty niche. I went to all kind of places to try to find very specific, you know, video marketing data in Delaware, and it just didn't exist. So we had to kind of get a little creative with that. I used my past 10 years worth of experience about knowing the local market. I kind of talked to some friends in Philly about what size projects they have. We analyzed our competition. We did an entire SWOT analysis on our business. And I'm a filmmaker first and probably a business person second. So, you know, all of this stuff, even going through the motions of doing these applications, I think is beneficial for a lot of businesses, because it's really going to make you kind of critically look at your business and where you sit in the market and how you can do better. So even if you don't get the grant, you know, there's probably some good that can still come from going through the motions. I had a friend who's in finance do 5-year projections, which is like, I don't know, we're a business that's only been around for 3 years. So it was kind of crazy to have someone sit and look at my finances and look at where things might be on year 5. So that was kind of cool. And I guess the last bit of information I'll have is just talk to your business manager from the Division of Small Business. On their website, they have the contact information for whatever county you're on, and they have your point person there. Take them out to lunch if you're comfortable with that in this COVID world we're living in. Because they're good people. They work hard. And mine kind of like walked me through each application. We looked at past year's applications and say what I did right and what I did wrong. He yelled at me about my grammar, but it's cool because we have a really good relationship. But yeah, just talk to them and they'll kind of walk you through the process and maybe make some connections with folks that might help. Mine introduced me to the folks at the DSBC. Am I saying that right? DBA? You know the acronym. Help me out, Jordan.
Small Business Development Center.
Yeah, the SBDC. That's what it
There
is.
we go.
So many abbreviations. The folks that I met with them and we talked about market data. So, I was very thankful for Joe kind of walking me through all the process there and answering last minute emails and me in my panic state. But yeah, I think that's basically it. I don't know if there's anything else you guys kind of wanted me to specifically mention.
No, I think this is really helpful. And you reminded me of something I think is great to add as well. These are all evaluated by a human. We don't use any kind of, AI or anything like that to scan these through. So you're going to get a live human being that reads this. Your best move is to make it really easy to read. And for somebody who doesn't understand your business at all, because we're going to read a lot of these, and you need to be able to capture someone's attention and explain your business in layman's terms. So keep that in mind as you're moving through that. But Mike, thank you again so much for joining us. We really appreciate your input.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So we're going to kind of end here and I think transition over to questions. I would recommend everybody follow us on our social media platforms. You can see here how you can do that, or you can find us. We share a lot of information here. So if you always want to know the latest and greatest, these are the places that you can find out what we're up to. And here's how you can contact us beyond those platforms. You can always visit us on our website, delbiz.com/edge for the EDGE program specifically. There's a contact form there we can get you to the right person based on which county that you're living in. You can send us an email to our general inbox, business@delaware.gov. Our phone number is listed here as well. And then we also have regional business managers that are assigned to different territories within the state. So if you can reach out to them directly if you would like. If you need help being directed, reach out to our general boxes, but they're here and they're happy to help. So they are also on this webinar with us today and will help us answer some questions that are coming in.
All right, so we have just a few questions. There's one in the Q&A. I think Joe's typing an answer, but I can jump in before Joe finishes his answer if he wants. So Chantel asked, to be clear, we are submitting financials for the full 2021 year of business. And that's correct, right, Jordan?
Yes, you would want your financial statements to be for the year ended 2021. So for a balance sheet, it's a snapshot in time. So it would be as of 12/31/21. Your income statement would be for a specific time period. So it's most likely it's annual at this point. So you would be looking for January 1st of 2021 to December 31st of 2021.
All right. Barbara Carter had a question. She said, when a company is awarded funding, how long do they have to come up with the required match that is needed to get the grant award?
The grant agreements have a 1-year period of performance.
And then London Brooks said, can you further explain the matching required by the applicant? What qualifies as matching funds, things like that?
We leave this intentionally open because we want you to make the proposal about what works best for your business. The most straightforward is obviously a cash match. So if you're asking us for a $50,000 grant and you're required to match it with $16,667, your total project budget in that case would be $66,667. It's a lot of sixes. That's what we would be looking for in that regard. We typically have a hard time getting there if we have folks that offer up like an in-kind match where they're committing their time. That's not really where we typically go with that. Where we find most people are able to succeed is to propose the cash match. It's just a much easier thing to do.
Okay, someone else asked, and this also came up in the chat. What if I don't need the full amount? Do I have to request the full 50,000 or 100,000?
No, and in fact, if you don't need the full amount, we do not recommend that you start just kind of adding things in just to get there. There's no penalty for not, requesting the full grant amount. It's really what is specific to your project. And if what your project needs is 25, 30, that's perfectly okay. Just make sure that you are tailoring it to your specific situation. That's the best way to be successful.
All right, we have a couple business specific questions in the Q&A and in the chat. Again, if you have questions directly related to your business, you formed your business 2 years ago and you have specific questions, please shoot us an email to business@delaware.gov. We can have someone reach out to you offline so that we can answer that question or those questions. Someone has a question for Mike. They said, can Mike speak to him, including his years of experience and talking to his friends or peers in the market data section, kind of how you use that to beef up your application, Mike?
Sure thing. So I guess before having my own business, I worked in this industry for about 10 years. So I had a good understanding of, what the going rates are for things around here, what like a production company pipeline might look revenue wise. And I just made some assumptions to say, hey, look, if I can capture 10% of what I used to do at my other place, then that's a successful business model for a two-person company. And saying that this, this Sprinter van essentially would reduce my overhead and make me even more profitable. So I really kind of leaned heavily in on that, and knowing my kind of business landscape, like it's a pretty small pond, Delaware, so we all kind of know each other, and we almost know our strengths and weaknesses too. So I was able to kind of do it pretty granular from like a competition analysis kind of thing, I feel like. And then I have friends in Philly who are really great. And, I'd say 90% of our work is in Delaware, but that's the opportunity here, is that we could expand into Philly, Jersey, Baltimore. And there's, pretty big markets there too. So the truck would help us do that.
Great, thanks, Mike. We've had a couple of similar questions to this one. Kimberly Wingate said, can you apply for a STEM and an entrepreneur grant? And then we also had someone ask if you can apply for multiple businesses, if you have multiple businesses. So I'll let Jordan respond to that.
You can apply for multiple businesses, but you cannot apply for multiple categories.
You answered that too fast, Jordan.
Sorry, it's very straightforward.
So, Mike, what do you think the difference was that kind of made your application finally get to the top and helped you secure an EDGE grant? What do you think put you at the top?
I changed my ask actually. So the first go around, the first two go rounds, I was looking for a camera that was about $50,000. Pretty nice camera, but to kind of justify the needs there was a little bit harder than the van, because just looking at a straight line item rental, we're going to use the van every day. And you kind of bring out the $50,000 camera on really expensive commercial stuff. So I think when I switched that up, it was a little bit more straightforward of an ask from us to say, like, everyone knows the value of having a van like that. And I also did a little bit more on the data side of things, as far as like market data. And I added the 5-year projection from a buddy of mine, but I don't know how much that kind of plays in.
Awesome, thanks, Mike. Marcia said, are charts preferable to words in the application, or does it not matter?
So that there's a hard and fast rule on that. I think it comes down to, you don't want all words and you don't want all charts. So make sure you're balancing that out nicely so that the charts complement your words, so that it's everything just ties together really nicely. I wouldn't go all one or the other.
All right, thank you. Do you have to use the money for anything specific like marketing, or can you use it more general?
If you submit a general budget, you're probably going to run into problems because your project is not specific enough. So, you know, like Mike's example of the van is a really specific thing. But if you're looking for a project budget that is just general or supporting operations or overhead, that's probably not going to be a project that gets a lot of traction.
Yeah, on that note, remember, this is a competition. And so you want to get the judges excited about the project. So if your costs are just general, it'll be difficult for the judges to really understand your project.
Now, Joe, that's a great point. And you also raise another point that I'm not sure that we shared, but you know, I think is good information. The first round is judged by our staff here at the Division of Small Business. So everybody gets a human. They're going to be here at the Division of Small Business, and they're going to read your proposal. The finalist pitch to a panel of judges, and they come from all kinds of outside organizations, from partner organizations, and it is very competitive. I don't think we can emphasize that enough. It's very, very competitive. If you think about it, we start with, you know, over 100 applicants and we narrow it down to 10. That's less than a 10% chance of securing a grant. So make sure you're coming out and putting your best foot forward.
All right, we've had this question a few times and we've answered it in the Q&A, but I just want to reiterate. A few people have asked, do you need to have your business in Delaware? The answer is yes. 51% of your employees or real estate property must be in Delaware in order for you to qualify for an EDGE grant. We had a question from Laurel Churn. She said, it seems like the grants are being awarded for one single piece of equipment or one large business expense. Is this true? I'll let Jordan respond.
I wouldn't say that that's the rule. We see a little bit of everything. Equipment is definitely one that has seen a lot of success just because of the way the program is set up. It is a really specific way to impact your business. When you get away from that, you get a little bit more into, it's harder to quantify what exactly it is. The other thing to keep in mind too is you need to be able to show that this actually does change your business. And that's where the proposals for overhead expenses, operating expenses just don't work, because there's no illustration of what happens to your business when the grant money runs out. What's the plan for changing your business to make it more competitive? We've also had some projects that have undertaken some like more construction type projects. Volunteer Brewing is an example of that. They were able to move into that space in Middletown and establish the tap room. So that wasn't just a single piece of equipment. It was something a little more involved than that. But at the end of the day, still an absolute game changer for their business. And they were able to show how it changes the trajectory that they're on.
Yeah, think about it too. We're looking for something that'll put you on equal footing with the competition. So if you're a coffee shop and there's a Starbucks down the road, and Starbucks can make their coffee machine for 25 cents a cup and cost you $1 to make your coffee. If that machine brings it down to 25%, like then you're on equal footing with them. Obviously, again, that's a machine example, but we're looking to get you on equal footing with national competitors.
Yeah, and to go back to the coffee house example, Joe, you're full of great prompts today. One of our past winners was Dolce in Milford, and their proposed project did include some coffee machines so that they can make some really fancy coffees and be able to compete with, you know, the Starbucks that's located in Milford where they are. But they also proposed an app, and they said, look, our competition is able to utilize an app system where customers can order on the go, walk in and grab their coffee and keep moving, or even to expand beyond that, you know, we obviously don't have a drive-through, but we could do curbside service, but we need the technology to do that. That's an offering that's expected in our industry. And it's something that as a small business, we can't do. We're not a Starbucks. We don't have the capital to just design our own app and launch it. That's another great example. It's something really specific that absolutely changes the way that they're able to do business and compete with larger, more well-capitalized businesses.
All right, we had a question. Outside of the written application, is there a panel that the applicants would present to orally during the process? Jordan, I'll let you go.
I actually missed the first part of that question. You cut out just a little bit. Can you
Oh,
repeat?
sorry. They said outside of the written application, is there a panel that the applicants would present to orally during the process?
The finalists will present orally. So not all applicants will be asked to come to the pitch presentation. We will narrow that down to probably give or take somewhere like 8 for STEM and 8 for entrepreneur. And all 16 of those group will present to the panel. And then it'll be narrowed down to 5 in each group from there.
Okay, we've had a couple questions related to STEM businesses. So the first is related to the match for STEM businesses. Gordon, can you explain how much match is required for STEM? This person asked if is the total from the state $100,000, which would require $33,000 from the company plus 100 from the state, or is it 75 from the company, or 75 from the state and 25 from the company?
So it's a 3 to 1 match. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Joe. You work with this every day.
Yeah, it's up to 100,000 match, like we said. Oh, I'm frozen, I think.
Oh yeah, Joe froze a little bit there.
Yeah.
Am I unfrozen?
You're going in and out, Joe.
Okay. Ignore me then. Jordan, you can answer.
Well, no, I think you're back now. If you want to give it one more shot.
No, so it's up to 100,000 for STEM and up to 50,000 for the entrepreneur. And it's a 3 to 1 match. So we could give up to 100,000 when you would be expected to match 33,333. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
In the match, yeah, you can, we don't, again, Jordan mentioned this earlier, we leave it vague on purpose. The easiest match is cash, but we do leave it open-ended.
Okay, we had a couple questions related to newer businesses. So Jordan, what if a business just started this year in January and they've only got a couple of months under their belt?
That's okay. This is actually exactly who we're looking to reach through this program, because it's probably unlikely that you would be able to walk into a bank right now and say, I need money for my business, because there's not enough history there.
Thank you. A lot of the questions that we have left are very specific to businesses. So again, please visit our website, business.delaware.gov. We have a contact form. You can fill that out. That'll get you right to your regional business manager, who can help answer any questions. I did forget to introduce our business managers, I think. So Joe Zilkowski, he covers Wilmington. David Matthey, he covers Newcastle County. Lauren Swain covers Kent and Sussex County. So they are both, or all three of them, are with us today. So these are the folks that you'd be working with as you fill out your EDGE application. We really encourage you to give us a call or check out our website, read through all of the information. There's a ton of information on our website, including the application, which provides a lot of information. So we encourage you to read through all of that. And if you have questions specifically related to your business, please reach out to a regional business manager for assistance. So David, did you want to touch on a couple of financial related items?
Not so much financial, but it's just, so I drew the short stick for this, so I have to give a cold dose of reality. So as Joe and Jordan said, this really isn't a grant, it's a pitch competition with the prize money at the end. So it's very, very competitive. On the website, there's a tip document that we've covered a lot of, but at the end of it, so go under the FAQs on the grant webpage, and it's a 3-page document, and at the very end is a checklist. Please pay attention to this. Unlike the relief grant, which many of you may have received, this is not going to be a back and forth process. Once you submit your PDF document, that's it. And if you're missing anything, you're going to be kicked out. And the unfortunate thing is you're not going to be told that you were kicked out. We just don't have the bandwidth to respond to every incoming application. So as these applications go through the process, you're kind of in the dark for about a month. The finalists will be notified that they've made the finals and they have to do the in-person presentations, but really pay close attention to make sure the formatting is right. You have all the financials that we're asking for, and that it's a complete application. The very first screening is to see if it's complete. And unfortunately, we do have some applications that are submitted that aren't complete, and they're not looked at all. It's just an incomplete. And at the end of the process, if the company calls and says, hey, I haven't heard anything, what's going on? We get to be the bearer of bad news that, well, it was an incomplete application. So please do download that tip sheet, pay attention to the checklist. And as has been mentioned, contact us, the three of us regional business managers directly. We can answer technical questions. We're not going to be able, we don't have the bandwidth to write the presentation with you. This is your presentation, not ours, but we can help you on the technical side and kind of give you some advice as to put your best foot forward, as Jordan has said. But please do keep in mind, this is a very competitive process. We're going from 100 applicants down to 10. So you really need to be firing on all cylinders. All that having been said, we do have people, we can give you feedback after the process, after the round is done. So if you're not selected in this current round, we can tell you where there's room for improvement. And Jordan mentioned Volunteer Brewing in Middletown. They did exactly that. They applied in our very first round, and they weren't successful, but we were able to give them some feedback, and they took that to heart, incorporated that, and they won in the next round. So that's a really nice aspect. And the absolute last thing I'll say is that the rubric that we have that's at the end of the application is invaluable. I know many companies will just write their proposal to the highest scoring category on the rubric and just because that's what the judges are looking for. They're looking to see those elements there. And like Mike highlighted, if you can highlight those to make it easy for the judges, that serves you very, very well.
All right, we did have a question. How are the winning companies selected? Is it a panel? Who makes up the panel? I think Jordan may have touched on this, but the initial review of the applications takes place internally. That's checking compliance with state and federal requirements, things like that. And then from that pile of applications, we send about 16, is that right, Jordan? 16 finalists to our judging panels. And our panels for STEM consist of people who are involved in the STEM business community within the state. And then our entrepreneurs are also, economic development and other people throughout the state, as well as business owners. We have business owners that join us too on those panels. And then we had a question, how many times a year can we apply for an EDGE grant? The EDGE grant is offered twice a year in March and in September. So again, as David mentioned, if you do not get selected this time as a finalist, we do encourage you to reapply in 6 months when we have the next round of competition. I think that is pretty much it. We've tried to answer as many questions as we could. Again, if you have specific questions about your business, please reach out to us on our website or by email, business@delaware.gov. We're happy to help answer any questions that you might have that are more specific to your business. So as long as Jordan or the rest of the team doesn't have anything else, I think we are all set.
No, I'm good, but thank you everybody so much for coming. We're really looking forward to seeing your great ideas.
All right, thanks everyone. Again, we'll email this presentation and this recording out to the whole group of people that have joined us. So thanks again for taking time out to hear about EDGE.